Fourth floor. Rovia. The door to the house on the fourth floor opened, and the swordswoman walked in. She closed the door behind her and turned to see her friend cooking dinner. He seemed focused and did not recognize her presence. Or maybe he did, and wanted to avoid speaking to her. Nonetheless, he remained quiet and poured bowls of soup which he places on the table. After removing her hood, she took her seat and said a quick thank you to her chef, who only responded with a nod. She noticed that his hand had grown back and was in full use. Limbs that are dismembered can grow back in short periods of time, and faster in a safe zone. They both ate in silence, not the comfortable silence they both are accustomed to. This was different. She wanted to tell him something, anything, but she couldn't find what to say. Thoughts began to pop in her head, even some she didn't desire. Words during the fight played in her head in a loop until it was engraved in her memory. As they finished, both continued to sit there in uncomfortable and awkward silence until one spoke up.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I never wanted this to happen, to show you that side of me.
She knew what he was speaking of. She clearly remembers the story Sasha told her about their first encounter. Now that she thinks about it, he was mostly enraged by goblins. Before their fight, he had compared Grimlock to a goblin. Something clearly wasn't right about the boy's relationship with goblins. He kept secrets. She knew that. Last Christmas, he went on a suicide mission to get the revival item, and he never explained why. Could that be connected with this? Before she could think of more, he spoke up again.
I lost my cool. I let myself be controlled by my emotions, and that is unacceptable.
It happens to everyone.
But I went too far, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry it had to go to the extent of us fighting.
I know.
She knew that he was sorry. She could tell by the sound of his voice. She can almost feel it.
I've been thinking...
About?
She knows what's coming. She had thought about this before. She understands why he will say it, and knows it's for the best. But she truly doesn't want to hear them. The words that will be the hardest for her to accept.
I think we need some time apart.
And like a blade to the heart, she could feel the pain it brought. And she could feel it spread throughout her, like a poison. She's trying her hardest to keep the tears from building up at the side of her eyes.
Our partnership can never be the same. Not after tonight.
I know.
Why? That was the question that was running through her head. Why her? Why now? She had just accepted the fact that she has feelings for the boy the day before. So why are they going to separate the next? Why was the universe always ripping her of her happiness? Why fall in love with him, only for them to not be together? Why can't she finally be happy? After a couple of seconds, the girl stood up from her seat, as her eyes were covered due to her head hanging low. The boy himself had his head slightly lowered. The girl walked to the door and twisted the knob, opening the door. She felt like saying something, but her throat stopped her, as words were not necessary. She swipes her hand and the menu appears. After a few clicks, a notification appears. Disband party? After a few seconds, she clicked the yes button, and his health bar was removed from her screen. All the emotions she felt for the boy and the current situation began to be released from her body. She felt too tired and knew it was a losing battle against her body. She tried her hardest to not make any noise, so instead, she ran out of the house, causing the door to slam shut. It was still dark on the fourth floor, so she pulled up her hood and began to run without looking. She needed to get somewhere that was anywhere but their home. The sound of the door slamming caused the boy to turn to it, knowing he had broken her heart. After a couple of seconds, he could no longer feel her presence with his detection skill. He knew that he was alone. He slowly raised his hands and began to unbuckle the straps on his helmet. Once they were completely loose, he slowly slipped it off his head, letting his hair breathe freely. He placed the helmet onto the table and placed his hands on his lap. He hangs his head low, knowing he made an unrepairable mistake. His fist clenches strongly on his pants until his knuckles turn white, and he begins to shake slightly. He releases a roar of anger as he grabs a hold of the table and flips it forward. The bowls and his helmet fall onto the ground as the table crashes. He grabs and throws the chair he sat on across the room, and it broke into multiple pieces as it hit the wall. He kicks the coffee table into the nearby wall. He lets out a frustrated and long, rage-filled roar. He breathes heavily as he stands in the middle of his destroyed home, alone. Meanwhile, the swordswoman had rented out an inn far from her previous home. She wept the entire way there, and now sits on her bed with her face between her knees. All of her adventures she faces alongside him are flashing before her, and it only increases the pain in her heart. She felt many things: alone, sad, stupid, miserable, but mostly broken. She wiped away the tears, trying to stay strong. Now that she was alone, what will her next move be? Being a solo player on the front lines was suicidal. She would have to fight as a group player.
Sounds like you two have a good friendship, but not everything lasts forever. That is why I am giving you this offer. If you ever need to join a guild, our doors are always open, and with your skills, you'll quickly raise through the ranks. You'll be able to leave whenever you want, so it is not an obligation to stay. Think of this as a backup plan, if being a solo player has reached its limit.
I appreciate the offer, but I would like to decline for now.
I understand. Just remember that the offer is always on the table.
Those words said to her by the commander of the Knights of the Blood Oath play in her head. If she was to get stronger, she would have to be a team player. She looks up from her knees and opens her menu, and scrolls down until she finds Heathcliff.
This is for the best.
She clicks on his tag, knowing that this will be a new chapter for her.